What should I do today? I could go for a hike. Or maybe take my wife out for a nice dinner. Ooh, I haven't read in a while. Nah, let's watch the same movie over and over again.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock.
Christmas has more famous icons than any other holiday. But my personal favorite has always been tall, dark, and handsome himself, Ebenezer Bezos Scrooge. A man who was so in love with his money that he doesn't even like spending it to keep himself warm during the winter. This man lives in a cold, dungy apartment, while today's wealthy elite are busy spending their riches on underground bunker palaces and hot stone massages from underage. But I know I'm not alone in being a massive Scrooge head, because there might be more versions of A Christmas Carol than any story in the history of the universe. Don't fact check that. Seriously though, IMDb has it at 247 different titles at the time of this recording. This includes true to form adaptations of the original story, alternate retellings, TV episodes like Beavis and Butthead, VeggieTales.
It was nice to meet you, now go away.
And my personal favorite, that one episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Danny DeVito gets naked in a couch. With so many different versions of A Christmas Carol, it's safe to say that there's an wide range of quality between a lot of these movies. So I did the unthinkable. I sat on my couch and watched a bunch of movies with my cat.
The God came down on Christmas Day. I know exactly what he'd say. He'd say, I do the bombs and I do the skins, but I do the world and everybody wins.
I did watch a bunch of different versions of A Christmas Carol for this video, but I don't really want to talk about the same movie over and over and over and over again, because like, how fun would that be?
And God blesses everyone.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
So instead, I'm going to pick 6 of the movies that I watched to talk about that all do a bit of something different, to varying degrees of success. And let's just go from best to worst. Best to destroys my soul in a way that I didn't even know was possible.
Meow.
Scrooged. Scrooge is pretty great. The Scrooge and Scrooged, if you will, is a TV executive named Frank Cross, played by Bill Murray. Bill Murray playing a television network head works both as a poignant media critique and a time capsule, because if this movie was made today, he'd probably be like a social media manager or agent for FaZe Clan. Frank Cross fits the Scrooge billing perfectly in this movie, with all of the usual empty-hearted selfishness that you would expect from the character. But I also really enjoy that this movie portrays him as being a product of the industry that he's come up in, with Frank's boss giving him some suggestions that a lot of us on Twitter or TikTok today would call anti-art, while Netflix would probably just call it some smart business.
I have here a study from Hampstead University which shows us that cats and dogs are beginning to watch television. Now, if these scientists are right, we should start programming right now. Within 20 years, they could become steady viewers.
Programming for cats.
Unfortunately, today, we're all too used to giant corporations taking a focus group-ass approach to making art. To me, this movie does feel like it does just about everything right. It has the humor that you would expect from a Bill Murray movie.
You can see her nipples.
I want to see her nipples.
But this is a Christmas show.
Well, Charles Dickens would have wanted to see her nipples then.
But it's also pretty scary. I love a movie that can seamlessly mix adult themes of both horror and comedy. My only problem with the movie is how his change of heart does happen very quickly, but that might only be a problem with how old Charlie Dix wrote the story. Also, maybe the internet has turned my brain into mush and destroyed any ability for me to focus, but the ending does go on a bit too long for me. Okay, dude, we get it. Just go buy the prize goose from Mr. Habernacle's shop and move on already. I'm giving Scrooge 4 out of 5 sexy Christmas demons with exposed nipples.
But you gotta have free.
Stop singing! Have you ever had a moment where you thought to yourself, man, we really need a Christmas movie where Ryan Reynolds bullies a small child into committing suicide? Wait, what? That movie must be completely insane. Not really. It's pretty bland, actually. This movie gave me whiplash from how many times it went back and forth from being something that was like, oh, that's pretty interesting, actually, to just another unfunny, paint-by-numbers Christmas movie. But you know what? It's the holidays. Let's start with the positives. This movie features Will Ferrell playing the ghost of Christmas Present and the head for an afterlife company that focuses on finding a different Scrooge every year and doing the whole thing that we've seen over and over again. It's basically if an entire production company forced your worst boss to go to therapy. That's a really interesting premise for a movie that sucked me in right from the beginning.
Where it fails.
Pretty much everything else. I mean, that's not fair. There are some good jokes in this movie. But remember when I was talking about the whiplash this movie gave me? Well, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Because 1 second they tell a good joke that actually works, and then 2 seconds later, they continually follow it up with the most MCU-coded bad joke ever. They even keep doing the old fake swearing bit.
Come on now, potty mouth.
Which is fine if this was a Disney Channel Christmas movie, but this is a streaming movie that already has swearing in it. What's the point? The fuck? I also liked a lot of the characters. Will Ferrell and Octavia Spencer are really good in their roles. Tracy Morgan as the Grim Reaper who loses the ability to speak whenever he's on the job is objectively pretty funny.
You made Christmas Carol, bitch!
But the thing about this movie is... Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds in this movie plays Clint Briggs, the CEO of a marketing company that profits off of Twitter beefs. In order to do something nice for his family, Clint helps his 12-year-old niece win student body president by digging up dirt on her opponent, causing him to... I don't really want to say this, but I also want the almighty algorithm gods to like me. So he forking unalives himself, which is definitely a choice that this movie made. But this does work as a way to show that the character is using his power to selfishly and carelessly hurt others. The thing is, though, that the audience doesn't really get to see that for 90% of the movie. Because look, I like a Ryan Reynolds movie as much as the next guy. But when he's playing the same character in this that he played in Waiting, and Deadpool, and Free Guy, and If, and every other movie he's been in, it's hard for me to see him as an inherently bad character that needs to be saved. And it leads me to believe that the movie doesn't really want me to see him as that either. Come on, he can't be that bad. Look at him flash that $1 million smile while he makes his typical Ryan Reynolds quips. I'm giving Spirited 2.5 out of 5 elves that are really unsure whether they're naughty or nice this year.
I mean, I have many gay friends. My father's gay.
Look,
Definitely not to be confused with the oldest surviving cinematic rendition of A Christmas Carol, 1906's Scrooge or Marley. Scrooge and Marley is an LGBTQ rendition of the Charles Dickens story. And I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but on the face of it, the cover of this book is kind of cheesy. The jokes are...
Victor, honey, put it away. You're scaring the children. My eyes.
Wait, where is it? Where is it?
not great. In fact, any attempt at a joke really reinforces the made-for-TV feel that this movie can give off. The editing, though, is somehow worse. But with all of that being said, I ended up liking this way more than I thought I would. This movie was partially funded by an Indiegogo campaign, and the lack of funding for this movie definitely shows at some points. But I also feel like the nature of how this movie was funded also comes through in the heart. This version of Scrooge is a lounge owner who treats his employees like dirt. But why is he like that? Well, partially because his dad is a hateful bigot who finds Ebenezer, get it, Scrooge, in bed with another man and kicks him out, which is awful. It's terrible. Although I will say, to the asshole dad, you didn't realize that these two were rummaging around in each other's butts already? Come on, man. Ben Scrooge is forced to go and make it on his own, where he transforms from a kind-hearted soul to a greedy businessman who hoards his wealth. That's unironically a pretty good Scrooge backstory. You know, maybe I would like Hallmark movies more if they weren't so conservative coded. Because right about now, when I was watching these movies, I started to have a revelation. Maybe a lot of what makes these movies work is... Come on, man, don't say it. Politics? Ugh. Not only is Ben Scrooge a rich businessman, but the love of his life, Bill, that he ditches for his business, passes from AIDS, with Ben too busy to even say goodbye. Like I said, in a lot of ways, this movie shouldn't work. Like, I can't personally relate to a lot of the things here. I'm not gay, and I wasn't alive during the height of the AIDS crisis. But I definitely can relate to having a selfish, greedy boss who treats his employees like garbage, which makes it a lot easier to ignore the shortcomings of this movie. Scrooge and Marley, 2.5 out of 5 Santas from an alternate universe where Santa is fit and has a well-groomed beard. Okay, I hope you guys are ready, because from here on out, things are going to get a little confusing. Because the titles of these next 3 movies that I'm going to talk about are very similar. But I promise the movies themselves are not.
Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
I know it's the holidays, but just for one moment, I'm going to give you a quick pop quiz. And don't worry, if you get it wrong, you're only going to fail the entire class and have to donate to my future Patreon that doesn't exist yet. If I told you there was a version of The Christmas Carol where Henry Winkler plays Scrooge, what year would you think that came out in? 2010, maybe 2000? Yeah, I could see a Scrooge in his mid-50s. This movie came out in 1979. Yep, a 34-year-old Henry Winkler, right in the middle of playing a heartthrob on Happy Days, plays a hobbled old man version of Scrooge named Benedict Slade. And boy, it doesn't look great. Henry Winkler in bad old man prosthetics might not be the worst nightmare fuel I've seen while watching these movies.
What the hell is even that?
But it's definitely a close runner-up. And there are points when I found the general uncanny valley nature of it pretty distracting. But other than that, this movie was another one that was surprisingly alright. Benedict Slade is a debt-collecting businessman that is straight up terrorizing a small New England town during the Great Depression, collecting debt like it's Pokemon cards, forcing the citizens of this small town to fall further behind on their debt or close their business during a time when, to say the least, people were really going through it. Also during a time when the rich elite, like freaky-ass looking Henry Winkler, had just crashed the economy. Huh. You know? So far, the Scrooges that I've talked about have been a TV executive, a media consultant who profits off of people feeling more disconnected from one another, and 2 greedy business owners. I feel like there's a pattern forming here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. I think my favorite aspect of this movie is that Slade began his life as a tough kid in an orphanage before he was saved by a generous soul who takes him under his wings, teaching him how to be a driven, hardworking adult. Once Slade has been through his own paranormal awakening, he goes back to that same orphanage and takes a boy who is just like him under his wings. Ooh, that's the good stuff right there. The only other negative thing that I can say about this movie is, as somebody who also grew up in a small New England town, it's pronounced Concord, not Concord. Like, Henry Winkler's makeup in this movie has conquered my nightmares. An American Christmas Carol gets 2.5 out of 5 Johnny Knoxvilles, but specifically from the movie Bad Grandpa. So at this point in my movie watching for this video, I kind of felt like I was running into a problem. The movies I've watched are honestly too good. They all have some kind of redeeming qualities, and nobody wants that. You all want that terrible shit, that straight from the depths of hell kind of shit. But then I found these 2 movies.
The Blue Collar Comedy Tour, the tour that's been cracking up America, is finally hitting the big screen.
This movie has all of your typical calling cards of a bad movie. Terrible jokes.
Oh my god. Oh, what is that?
It's pizza with a hint of hard-boiled egg.
That's disgusting.
I don't know whether to be grossed out or hungry again.
Check. Bad acting from well-established actors whose talents are being wasted by this movie.
So, have you taken your little ones to see Santa?
I don't trust no man who wants to get dressed up in a costume and put little kids on his lap.
Check. But I could live with all of that if it wasn't for one cardinal sin that this movie breaks. I said don't say it, man. Polarizing socioeconomic issues that only work to insinuate that the real problem in society are lazy poor people. This movie follows Cindy, played by Taryn Manning, another actress with far too impressive of a resume to be in this movie. She's just another white trash loser, more interested in getting drunk and doing the horizontal line dance, if you know what I'm saying. So the Scrooge of this movie is a poor, jobless mother? Cool. And I know, people like this exist and hurt others in their lives. Personal responsibility and all that stuff. But in this movie, it kind of feels like every single character should be going through their own paranormal therapy session. Cindy is an irresponsible loser, but at least we have a responsible sister-in-law.
Did Aunt Cindy touch you with her dirty welfare hands?
And she's supposed to be one of the people that we feel bad for? Well, okay, there is the guy that Cindy's seeing at least.
Daddy!
Oh, hey. Oh, man, you miss your daddy. Let me get a look at you. Whoa.
All right, incest, hell yeah, wanting to bang your daughter, nice. And that's how you know that this movie has a misdirected hate towards poor people. Our president is a billionaire and he wants to bang his daughter. Boom, yeah, topical humor. At points in this movie, it feels like it's trying to do something like The Florida Project, a movie that beautifully humanizes the victims of poverty. But it ends up coming off more as a hillbilly elegy, that stupid-ass J.D. Vance movie that relishes in its disdain for the working class. Every once in a while in this movie, there will be a bit or a joke that isn't completely terrible, like the ghost of Christmas Past getting too drunk. Or at the end, when, to show that she's changed, Cindy reopens her mom's hair salon, which she opens on Christmas Day, and there's a line of people forming outside to get their hair done on Christmas Day. But between how tone deaf this movie is and the need to play the same stupid cock rock version of 12 Days of Christmas over and over again.
12 day Christmas, my true love sent to me. 12 drummers drumming, 11
This movie blows and feels like it would celebrate all of the other Scrooges that I've talked about in this video. All American Christmas Carol, 1.5 pudgy J.D. Vance faces out of 5. And then that just leaves one more movie. But first, let's just take a quick detour down the road of cinema history. It's the 80s. Cocaine is all the rage. We have a celebrity turned senile politician for president, and audiences are being treated to some of the best comedies of all time. Vacation, Spaceballs, Caddyshack, banger, banger, banger. But my personal favorite comedies from this era are Airplane and The Naked Gun. They have everything. Leslie Nielsen's on his A game. These comedies have the perfect mix of being clever, but also kind of stupid. But what else do these movies have in common? They're both co-written and co-directed by then famous Hollywood liberal David Zucker. Him and his brother couldn't miss in this era. And then in 2001, there was a terrorist attack. Google it. It was on the news. It was a whole big thing. This terrorist attack would cause David Zucker to have his own political awakening. He was shocked with how Democrats could let this happen and then turn around and be against war during a time when Republicans were in control of the government. And Democrats would also support going to war. But none of that mattered because David Zucker was now determined to make the shittiest movies of his career. Maybe this movie is the exception, though. No, it's not.
We are Charlie Kirk, we carry the flag.
An American Carol follows Chris Farley's brother as Michael Moore. Oh, sorry, I mean Michael Malone. Michael Malone has 3 character traits and only 3 character traits. He's fat, he's a stupid liberal, and he's a fat, stupid liberal. And don't worry, because this star-studded cast doesn't just feature Kevin Farley. This movie also has actors who should have known better, like John O'Hurley, Leslie Nielsen, Christopher McDonald. Oh, and all of the exact actors you would expect to be in this movie, like Kelsey Grammer, John Voight, Kevin Sorbo, and Bill O'Reilly? So fat, stupid liberal Michael Malone is destroying the world with his stupid libness. And General Patton and George Washington have to show him the error of his ways. But what really brings this movie together for me is that it just hits a perfect balance between looking like cheap garbage and being really racist. That's special. So here's the thing. The message behind the classic Charles Dickens story is that an obsession with hoarding endless wealth is an extreme isolating factor in society, and it should be looked at an addiction just like any other addiction. And the message behind this movie is, capitalism is great, and if you don't want to kill more Muslims in the Middle East, you must hate America. Cool. That's almost the same thing, I guess. This movie is so bad, man. This might be the worst movie I've ever seen. I'll take Jack and Jill over this any day. I know. I fall into the exact stereotype of somebody that this movie is lampooning. But like, as far as conservative commentary goes, this doesn't even make sense. At one point, they do a wonderful little musical number titled 1968, where they lampoon the hippies of yesteryear. But like, a lot of the hippies from the 60s are now today's conservatives. Or this scene, where Michael Malone is leading a protest, but just take a second to look at some of these signs. There's the obvious bring troops home, which I mean, wouldn't that mean that liberals do support the troops because they want them to be alive. But the one that really got me, the ultimate 2008 ponage to show how ridiculous the left is. End disease, medicine is not the answer. A sentiment that a good chunk of conservatives believe now, going on 20 years after this movie came out. Back to the other Zuck, though. The other Zuck. This movie made a lot more sense to me when I read about David Zucker and the political change of heart that he had. Because sure, this movie goes after the usual conservative targets like communism and Girl Scouts, but its main targets are definitely Islam and anti-war protesters. Because David Zucker has said that what led to his shift was seeing some on the left blame America's foreign policy for the September 11th attacks. He found it ridiculous. And first of all, I don't know, read a book or something, dude. But also, it makes the general message of this movie one of being scared of literally everything. In American Carol, 1/2 out of 5 Christmas ghosts, but instead of Jacob Marley, it's Vladimir Lenin scaring your conservative uncle. Making this video really put into perspective why there are so many different versions of the same book that came out 150 years ago. It ends up being the perfect skeleton story to portray the woes of capitalism for whatever era you want to set the story in. Whether Scrooge is a moneylender or TV executive or stingy business owner taking advantage of his employees, we can all instantly relate to any of these because most of us realize that these are the kinds of people that are destroying society for their own personal gain. And if you don't get that, then these two movies might be perfect for you. Because I think that understanding, or lack thereof, is what separates a good Christmas Carol from a bad Christmas Carol. Maybe the acting isn't all that great, or the pacing's kind of confusing. I can look past that, as long as I see the Scrooge and think, yeah, this piece of shit needs to change.